627,000 businesses are opened all over the world yearly, and 7 out of 10 of these businesses do not make it past the first year. And this doesn't account for the Nigerian factor, but let's put that aside and focus on the statistics and its implication. Every business must find a way to set themselves apart, and one way I can recommend you do that is finding the right name for your startup enterprise. A business name can make or break your business, and that's why it's important to have the right name that represents your business and makes it stand out, makes it unique. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the process on how to do this. I'll be right back. Hello and welcome to The Nook. I'm Grace Neri. Here at The Nook, I give you actionable tips and tricks that helps you grow your passion into profit and helps you live your best life. If it's your first time here, welcome. In short, I want to welcome you in a special way. I say Obokia. Obokia means welcome in my local dialect. And for those of you that are returning subscribers, you guys are the real MVP. You are the real MVP. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you've not done that already. And also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified of videos that come up. Today's video is centered around finding a perfect name for your business, and by the end of this video you will learn how to pick the right name for that your startup enterprise, and also things to avoid in the process of doing so. Before we go ahead, I have a quiz for you. The question goes like this: after you've decided that your big idea can be monetized, what is the first step to take to turn your passion into a business? 1. Finding the perfect name. 2. Creating products to test the market. Or 3. Sourcing for funds for that business. At the end of this video, we'll talk more about that. There are different approaches to naming your business. You can decide to give your business a literal name or a metaphorical name. A literal name is basically what you see. What you see is what you get. So a name has been given, and that name, you can visually see what the business is about. Metaphorical name has more figurative meaning, so you cannot see it and say, okay, this is what the business is about, or this is what the name is about. You need to unpack it. You need to dig deeper to find out what that name is about. Under the literal names, we have descriptive name and aspirational name. So a descriptive name example would be something like Home Depot or Men's Warehouse, because you know that in the men's warehouse you have anything that concerns men there, and then in the Home Depot you know that they provide home development or home improvement tools and materials or services. So it's explicit, you know by the name what they do or what they're about. So but then in this case it's descriptive, describing the purpose of the business, while an aspirational name describes what the goal of the business is or what they aspire to. So for example, an example of an aspirational name would be it's a local, I remember this local business, the name is called No Leftovers. So that is a promise, that is a goal. The goal for the business is that anybody that comes to them would have no leftovers. They are a food or a catering brand or business. So the promise is they want to ensure that there is no leftover after you use their service or when you purchase food from them. So it's a promise, but then it's more aspirational than actual. Metaphorical names have 2 subcategories, if I can call them that. They are the invented names and the connotative names. So invented names is self-explanatory, something that doesn't exist in the dictionary before and was invented. A good example of that would be Xerox, Xerox, Xerox. And you have other options like Kodak, you have Exxon in ExxonMobil. So yeah, those are some made up names that are invented. And the second subcategory is connotative names. So a name that has an actual dictionary meaning but is not used that way by the brand who picks this name. A good example would be Apple. So the brand Apple is a tech company, but it's not used to refer to the actual Apple, but it has more deeper level meaning. Also, we have virgin, so it doesn't necessarily mean what it means in the dictionary, but then there's something deeper in the meaning. Aside these two major categories, there are other ways you can name your business. So for example, the owner of the brand can decide, oh, I want to name it after me. A good example is Michael Jordan, whose shoe brand is called Jordans. There are so many other examples. Ford, Mercedes, that was named after his daughter. So those are examples of brands that bear the name of their owners, or someone related to their owner, to the owner rather. Another way would be the use of acronyms. Acronyms we can kind of class it under metaphorical, but then because these acronyms usually have meanings that are literal, they are nowhere, so we can just say the use of acronyms. A good example is ASOS. ASOS is, the full meaning is as seen on screen. The idea was to produce things that are seen on screen at a cheaper price for the masses. But with time, they decided that they didn't want that name, and they took the acronym ASOS. So we have other ones that are very popular. So we'll say UPS, we'll say CNN. Those are acronyms, so you can use acronyms to form your name. Another one I would like to point out is lexical naming. So sometimes people use wordplay in order to be memorable. So they could use puns, they could use alliteration, they can misspell the words in the brand name intentionally. A good example of this would be Lyft. You know the brand Uber, Lyft? So they spell, instead of L-I-F-T, they spell it L-Y-F-T. Moving away from the boring stuff to the more interesting stuff, here I'm going to give you 3 tips or 3 mistakes to avoid when naming your business. First one is, do not overcomplicate things. Do not make the name complicated, because the first goal of a business name is to ensure that it is memorable. I would say the rule of thumb is to use the KISS as our watchword, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So let it be as simple as possible, because when it's simple, then it will be able, we'll be able to remember it, and then we'll be able to pronounce it, and also we'll be able to spell it. Number 2 tip is to ensure that the name you pick doesn't have a negative connotation or meaning in any other language, as well as the language it is in. Let's do this quick exercise. I call it the connotation exercise. 3 words: group, club, clique. While group has a neutral connotation, clique has a somewhat negative connotation, and club has a much more positive connotation. So words can have different connotations but the same meaning. So when you pick a word to kind of pair with that, your brand name, ensure that you are picking a name or a word or a phrase that has a positive connotation, and then make sure that when your name is translated from the original language, which could be English, to any other language, so Japanese, French, Calabar, make sure it has a positive meaning, because we are growing a global brand, and then we don't want that to be the bane of our business by the time we're trying to scale internationally. Number 3, do not pick common names. Make sure that the name you pick is unique. So yes, make sure it's unique, but then also make sure that it is not overcomplicated. You can pick a simple name, but do not pick a common name. A good example would be my brand, Boraya. My brand used to be named House of Caris, and although it was easy to remember, it was memorable, it was easy to spell, it was easy to pronounce, I had a problem. Anytime people hear House of Caris, the first thing they're thinking of is church. To be honest, it used to upset me. They'll be like, do you go to this church or do you go to that church? Rather than asking me the right questions about my brand, or what do you do, what kind of market do you cater to, because those are the questions you want people to ask you so that you can tell them more about your brand and then kind of win them over. I did a research and I realized that a lot of other brands were named House of Caris, so whether it was makeup brand or tutorial brand and stuff. So I just said, you know what, this is not unique enough for me. This is not setting me apart. And then I changed my name, or rebranded the name of my business to Boraya. So I was going to use my full name, which is Iwe Boria, but I didn't realize that Iwe Boria was a mouthful, and then decided to shorten it to Boria. The actual pronunciation is Boria. But then I had a lot of people saying Buria, Boria. Then someone said Boraya, and I'm like, that sounds good. But then aside the fact that she called it Boraya, what I was looking for was something to link that name with that will make it easily memorable and easy to pronounce. So I said Mariah Boraya. So anytime someone is struggling with pronouncing the name, I just say Mariah Boraya, and then they never forget. That makes it memorable, that makes it easy to spell. So that's an amazing trick that you can also apply. Find a word to kind of anchor the name if people are having difficulties trying to pronounce it or spell it. The bonus tip is to ensure that your business name has an available domain name. So go to our sites that does hosting, GoDaddy, Namecheap, and then check for your name. So if you want to name your business amazingfashion.com, ensure that Amazing Fashion has an available domain name. Ensure that the domain name is available just before you go ahead to register that business. I'll just reiterate these 3 tips. 1, keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate the name. Number 2, ensure that it doesn't have a negative connotation or meaning in another language. Number 3, do not use a common name. Use something that is unique but not necessarily complicated. And then the extra bonus tip was ensure that your domain name is available. I'll go ahead to do a quick summary of all that I have said, which is that 1, names of a business can be literal or metaphorical, and when they are literal they can be aspirational or descriptive, and when they are metaphorical they can be invented or connotative. I also mentioned that you can name your business using a lexical approach. You can also use the founder's name to name your business, and also use acronyms to name your business. So those 3 are some other options in coming up with a good or perfect business name. What is a perfect business name? When you're able to evoke the right emotional reaction from your audience through your business name, then I would say that is a perfect business name. Before we go, I remember we asked the question: after you've decided that your big idea can be monetized, what is the first step to take to turn your passion into a business? 1, finding the perfect name. 2, creating products to test the market. Or 3, sourcing for funds for that business. It was a trick question. The first point of call should be figuring out what business model to use. And the best way, in my opinion, to do it is not by creating a business plan, is by using a linear version of a business plan, which is called the business model canvas. We'll come back at a later time to talk more about the business model canvas. Until I come your way next time, I still remain your main girl, Grace Mary. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with other people you feel would benefit from my channel. And until then, please stay safe and stay healthy.